Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IS Academy. In this lecture, we'll be discussing China's signal that it has given to the world, of course, about its power in the Southwest Pacific, talking about a new era. Why a new era? Because historically it has been the USA which has been the dominant force. Now, of course, China is a big power and it is showcasing that in the Southwest Pacific as well. So that is what we are going to discuss about. Now, how is China showcasing that? What is the news all about? So China has conducted a live fire exercise in the Southwest Pacific. We'll see what live fire exercise is. With that, it has demonstrated its growing power in Australia and New Zealand's peripheral immediate periphery. Now, why is this? China is supposedly, now these are all analysis that we are doing. It is analyzed that this is probably because China now wants to start a new norm, that of its presence in the periphery of Australia and New Zealand. Now, before we get into the details as to why China is doing and what New Zealand and Australia can do, very important announcement here that we have started the coverage of entire year's current affairs for the 2025 aspirants, specifically for the 2025 prelims. It is going to cover all the important topics of all the subjects, as well as you will get the content and brief, which is very essential to revise current affairs faster. It goes live every day at 8 p.m. subject-wise current affairs of the entire year. Now, when that's done, of course, mains holds very important key, because that not just decides whether you're selected for personality test, but also your ranking going forward. So for that, we have come up with the Impact 2025, that is intensive mains practice and content training, in which, of course, comprehensive answer writing practice will be there, content enrichment will be there, but the most important thing here is the personalized feedback and mentorship, which plays a very important role. If you just get your papers checked, you may not understand what feedback is all about, how to improve. So here you get personalized feedback as well as mentorship, in which your strengths and weaknesses specifically will be worked upon in order to enhance your marks. It will take care of your entire GS plus essay paper in a total of 34 sessions spanning over 50 hours of live classes. So what are you waiting for? Go and join this and get the benefit of it. Now let's delve onto the news more. So China is trying to establish its authority, or rather showcase the new era in the Southwest Pacific with respect to naval supremacy. Now, how is it doing that? Over the few days, not just few days, it is lasting, it is going on, and it is going to go on for a longer period. What China has done is launch live fire exercise. Now, what is live fire exercise? We'll see that as well. If you talk about the live fire exercise, it is nothing but an exercise in which you are using live ammunitions, in which you are basically using live ammunitions. Generally, when exercise is done, it is for cooperation, collaboration, etc., and which you may use dummy cases. Many times, and a drill is also going on. Let's say a police drill is going on for some attacks. So all the guns and everything is filled with dummies. And in exercises also generally that happens. But some exercises are live fire exercises. This was a live fire exercise in which live means actual real arms and ammunitions were used. This is what a live fire exercise is. Now, that's, that also happens. But then what was significant about this? This was done in the periphery of Australia and New Zealand, in and around Australia and New Zealand, without informing Australia and New Zealand. That means without any warning to Australia and New Zealand, China started doing a live fire exercise, which is a serious disregard of any kind of international law or any kind of humanity, for example, because this is a dangerous thing, right? Now, because that was happening, what would Australia and New Zealand do? Respond? No, they are not that strong enough with naval supremacy, etc., to respond. So what did they do? They simply cut off any direct flight which was flying through the Tasmanian Sea. They rerouted it. They said, boss, if you're doing it, keep on doing. We will go from this side so that we do not come under the fire. Now, because of that, what has happened? China has literally established its authority, saying that I'll do whatever I want to, and you can't do anything about it. And that is exactly what has happened. Now, so this is New Zealand over here. This is Australia over here. This is the Tasman Sea. Now, since here is where that drill is going on, so whatever flights were going directly from here to here, from here to here, have to be rerouted from somewhere else in order to avoid the fire that was being fired by China, so that they do not enter in the firing zone. Now, what is the consequence? The consequence is simply that China is displaying its military forces, and it had and made sure that New Zealand and Australia cut off their travels, transport, air flights, etc., even though it was China who was at fault over here. So it was demonstration of China's growing sea power in the Southwest Pacific. Now, what does the international law say about this? See, the international law is very clear that any international vessel, any vessel of any country can peacefully travel, peacefully pass through the international waters. The waters which it may not be theirs, it can still pass through that waters peacefully for peaceful purposes in a peaceful manner. So an innocent passage is allowed even in international territorial waters. That is allowed, right? But that transit, of course, should not be prejudicial to the peace, good order, safety, security of the bordering regions, areas, and greater world, right? Now, coming on to military vessels, what they should do and what they should not do, there is no international law that regulates military vessels who conduct live fire exercises in international water. So there is no regulation. Now, just for a time being, imagine if there would have been regulation, would China would have paid attention to it and followed it? Probably not, right? It has not followed the UNCLOS directive, the International Criminal Courts or International Court of Justice directives, etc. So probably it would not have followed this as well. But presently, for your prelims, also remember and your exam that there is no international law as such as well. So then what do? People generally, if they're doing something like that, they should at least inform, especially if it's a live fire exercise. It is generally the norm. Is it obligatory to do? No, but it is normalcy that people generally inform the nearby states in advance so that they can take certain preventive measures, but it was not done. Now, what is PLAN's path? PLAN means People's Liberation Army's Navy, that is China's Navy. What it is doing is it is traveling, it is circumventing the entire region and trying to, and probably this is the path it is going to take in the coming days. Means what? It is traversing throughout the Southwest Pacific Ocean, circumnavigating the entire Australia and passing through New Zealand, showcasing its power and presence and ensuring that in future this is treated as just a normalcy. What will happen? Probably the frequency of doing this will increase. Also, what this does is this travel is over 8,000 kilometers, and it showcases that now China is a superpower in Navy. It establishes that it is superpower in the Blue Navy. Anyway, so going forward, what are the options or solutions for Australia and New Zealand? First things first, it is an awkward situation. Why it is an awkward situation? Because both the nations have military agreements with China. So what is happening here? A country with whom you have some arrangements, some agreements, right? That is the same country who is disregarding you completely and doing this. So then what do? Right? That becomes very important. Now, it becomes awkward, of course, with someone who have signed the pact is doing that kind of mischievous or dangerous thing. You are in shock, of course, and in a dilemma as to what to be done. Another unexpected and worrying thing is the chilling silence of USA over this complete activity. USA is silent on the entire activity. Why? And also you would say that why would USA say anything? Of course, it's one of the, China is becoming a superpower. It is probably, you can argue, USA is already a superpower, a world superpower. So when you are a superpower, it is sort of an onus on you to do something about it. But forget that, also there is also an obligation. So is USA obliged? Absolutely yes, it is obliged under the ANZ-US, Australia New Zealand US treaty. Under Australia New Zealand US treaty, United States is obligated to defend Australia if it comes under attack. So this can be said to be a sort of attack because you did not inform and the fires were live, right? So even if you are not defending in the sense that countering China and fighting them, but at least you can be vocal about it, because under the treaty you have the agreement to safeguard Australia. Now in this Australia New Zealand US treaty, why safeguard only Australia and New Zealand and not New Zealand? Because with respect to safeguarding New Zealand, that was removed from this treaty by the USA previously. So as per this treaty, only Australia needs to be safeguarded by the US. So it is of course obligatory for the US to at least be vocal on that. Now what else can Australia and New Zealand do? One more thing that Australia and New Zealand do over here, see, they do not have the capability to fight Chinese army, of course not, and they won't want it to be escalated that much. So they can reach out, of course, to like-minded small and medium powers. These powers who rely on what? Rules-based international order for their security, safety, so on and so forth. In fact, India is also a country which relies on the international rules, regulations and laws. We follow that and we rely on these regulations to take care of things. So Australia and New Zealand can reach out to that. Also invest significantly in their defense capabilities to address such situations in the future, but the gap is too much. For example, China has over 230 military vessels, naval vessels, whereas Australia and New Zealand combined have 12. The only power that competes with China's 230 plus vessels, is USA with close to 220 vessels. Now USA was far superior previously, few decades back, but now China has overtaken it, and it is clearly showcasing its supremacy in the Southwest Pacific. Thank you.